I feel strongly that the federal government has an obligation to protect its citizens. And part of that obligation is to secure our sovereign borders. When the federal government fails to perform a constitutional duty, I believe that a state has not only the right but an obligation to act independent of the federal government. When the federal government fails to perform a constitutional duty, I believe that the state has not only the right, but it has the obligation to act independent of the federal government to, in this case, secure the border. In 2006, I realized, after many conversations with our Texas congressional delegation up in Washington, that there was little chance of the administration then and now increasing the size of the Border Patrol to a level where they could secure the border. So in 2007, I made it a priority in 2007 and every year since to provide funding for Texas law enforcement and our state police, the DPS, so they could fill that gap. Since 2007, we've appropriated over $800 million of Texas tax dollars, not federal dollars, to secure our border. All those pieces came together. Buying high-altitude spotter aircraft with infrared, helicopters with state-of-the-art infrared, see at night, see-through clouds, armor-plated gunboats with infrared, more GPS on the ground. They all came together in September through October of 2013 when we initiated our first surge called Operation Strong Safety. Now, several months later, on December 4th, 2013, right in this room, I called on the legislature to support me in a 24/7, 365-day-a-year surge along the border. Some 6 months later, on June 19th, Governor Perry, Speaker Strauss signed off on this with me, and the DPS took on the job that the federal government was simply not doing. In July, we deployed the Texas National Guard as a force multiplier in their efforts so that our border force could be far more effective. Now here's some numbers. In June of 2014, when we activated our surge with the DPS, we were seeing in that month of June some 6,600 apprehensions in one of the most active sectors along the border, which is called the Rio Grande Valley sector. The Rio Grande Valley sector represents 56% of all the criminal activity from Brownsville all the way to the Pacific Ocean. It's a very active sector. In just the last couple of weeks, we saw in the last week in October, that number has dropped to 1,600. That's a 77% drop in illegal activity in the operational area of the Rio Grande Valley. Plus, the Texas DPS has seized some 200,000 pounds of marijuana, worth more than $100 million on the street. These are drugs that aren't going to show up in your communities, in your homes, in your neighborhoods. So the surge is working, and it's important that we keep it working. Some time ago, I saw that the funding for the Texas National Guard, which is doing an extraordinarily good job, and our Texas Parks and Wildlife was scheduled to run out in the end of December. Quite frankly, I was concerned that that would put Texans at risk again, because once the surge stops, it's business as usual for the cartels. When on the most active sector, we've cut down criminal activity by some 77%. This week, I've signed a proposal with Governor Perry and Speaker Strauss that recommends a funding approach to the Texas Legislative Budget Board that will sustain operations through the end of this current fiscal year, August 31st, 2015.